Hey, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD Podcast. We're going to be right back with this week's Wednesday Wisdom guest. But as always, we're going to give a shout out to our sponsors. Now, you've heard me say this before. These are all companies that I used as an athletic director. They're all great companies, and you should be using them too. So take 3 minutes, listen to our shout outs, then listen to our Wednesday Wisdom guest, and then go and visit these sponsors. I'm telling you, you're going to be glad you did. Here we go. We want to thank Sideline Interactive indoor score tables and video boards for their support. Go to their website and you can schedule a live web demo to see all their great products in action. You've heard me say before, probably one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Check out their great products today. We also want to say thanks to Gipper. Go to Gipper.com and let their team turn you into a social media marketing guru. Whether it's a simple social media post to celebrate a win or an entire newsletter to showcase the great things your athletic department is doing, the team at Gipper will have you up and running in no time. It's professional graphic design made easy. Go to Gipper.com to get started. We also want to say thanks to Snap Mobile, particularly Snap Raise. Have you ever spent weeks and weeks with a fundraiser and been disappointed in the results? Well, I'm telling you, those days are gone. We use SnapRaise at our school and had great success, and so will you. Go to their website, look at their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, you just found it, and it's SnapRaise. We also want to thank Home Campus. Home Campus is the official sports administration platform for a number of states, thousands of ADs, and even if your state uses a different platform, you can be a home campus school. I'm telling you, their athletic eligibility and clearance platform alone is a game changer. Go to homecampus.com for more information, and don't forget to mention the podcast. We also want to say thanks to Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. My assistant AD, along with thousands of others, got his master's through the Ohio program, and while he was doing it, he also earned 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at no extra charge. Check out Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. We also want to say thanks to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards or your school's Hall of Fame, go to their website and take a look at their interactive touch screen. That's right, touch screen video consoles. You put one of their units in your gym lobby or your main school hallway, it's going to be like a magnet for kids, for coaches, how about sponsors and parents? Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Check out their great products today. We also want to say thank you to Hometown. Hometown's changing the game for schools and organizations with their solutions that include things like, well, big surprise, digital ticketing. They're still the leading provider for schools and colleges. But how about athletic website construction, fee-free fundraising, and a lot more? Whether you're an AD, a principal, even a head coach, Hometown's going to show you how to save time, raise money, and bring your community together. Go to hometown.com and don't forget to mention the podcast. We want to say thanks to our good friends at Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. At my school, we use surveys for everything, for student athletes, for coaches, even parents. And the information that came back was almost always over the top positive. I'm talking 98%. We also got to hear from those squeaky wheel parents, but the surveys allowed us to hear their concerns, usually address them to keep them from turning into something big. But having that 98% approval was incredibly valuable, especially when you're visiting with your principal or even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. And we want to say thank you to Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years. As an AD, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school. And our coaches, all of our coaches, just loved the tools that Huddle provided. Our student athletes loved the videos, and our parents loved the streaming, but there's a whole lot more. Go to huddle.com. Join the 8 million users and find out how to turn your school into a huddle school. That's huddle.com. Welcome back, everybody, to another segment of Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD Podcast. We're going all the way out to the Pacific Northwest, close to where I grew up. We're going to Vancouver, Washington, and our guest today is Bre Smedley. Bre has an incredible background in athletics. She's the founder and CEO of a company called the Elite Competitor. We're going to hear all about that and more. But Bre Smedley, welcome to Wednesday Wisdom.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, for our listeners, we're recording this in September, so it's going to be very timely when you listen to it. Bre, we always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So give us your quick bio, where you were born, where you grew up. Maybe take us up through your own college days, and then we'll take a short break. But what's the Bre Smedley origin story?
Yeah, well, like you mentioned, I grew up in Vancouver, right around where you grew up too, so small world. But yeah, I was a multi-sport athlete growing up, kind of exposed to a lot of sports, but I found my love in volleyball because I was a 6 foot tall, about middle schooler walking the hallways. And so Mr. Brown, the math teacher, who's also a volleyball coach, quickly keyed on in on that and got me into volleyball. And come to find out, I really liked it better than anything else I tried because I did not like I didn't like the physical contact. I love that there was like a net between us. So fell in love with it, kind of dove in. Once I got to high school, I started playing club and kind of had fell into the typical cycle of playing high school, then club, but club was not what it is now. I still was in the
Right.
days of club where it was like, we still got back to our high school seasons and it was fun. But I started getting good. I started getting recruited. And, by the time I was a senior, I was kind of faced with the opportunity to go play at the next level. And I did what nobody expected me to do. And I quit actually after my senior season in high school because what I can see now removed, like, gosh, 18 years, 20 years, can't even, I graduated in '07, was that I was dealing internally with what a lot of athletes deal with, pressure, perfectionism, especially girl athletes that are just feeling like they have to do everything perfectly or it's not good enough. And no one would really know that from the outside because I was a really talented player. But on the inside, it was just this pressure that I felt like was something I didn't want to handle for another 4 years. So instead of going on to play, I decided that I would walk away. Now, the thing about it is I went to, you're probably familiar with Western Washington University, about 5 hours north. And so I went to school there just to be a student. I told everybody I was burned out of volleyball. I'm just going to go and be a student. The secret was that I was not burned out of volleyball. I was burned out of feeling like I didn't know how to manage pregame anxiety. I just, all of those things that all athletes deal with, but most don't actually have a way to manage that. So I went to every single game at Western my freshman year. They made it to the national championship. And I was like, oh my gosh, I miss this so much. Like, I wish there was an opportunity. I mean, they had a phenomenal program. And so I reached out to the coach actually after they came back from the national championship. They were the runners up. And I just said, like, I'm looking for a place. I don't know. This is just a shot in the dark. Here's my story. And I just kind of had this feeling of if I don't try, then I'm just gonna regret not. And I was playing intramurals, but it just wasn't giving me the thing that I needed. And she actually responded and said, "Hey, you know what? Actually, I was friends with some of the girls on the volleyball team. She's like, I've heard of you, and why don't you come for a practice, a tryout, just with me?" And so I got in the gym. I was like, I'm just gonna do it. I'm so nervous. Went and played and was like, all right, that's that. Um, at least I tried. She called me into her office a couple days later and was like, I actually want to offer you a walk-on spot on the team. And I was like, so happy. I would have paid her to play. I did not care that I was not getting a scholarship, but I was walk on. I just was so happy to be back in the sport. And it was amazing. It was the best thing that could have happened to me because this coach was a coach that coached more than just a physical game. I got to learn some other strategies in sports psychology. I actually got interested in sports psychology, started studying it in my undergrad, and realized that there were like tools and strategies to build my own confidence and things to do to manage pregame nerves. By the time I was a senior, she called me back into her office and offered me a full ride scholarship. I was a starter. I was loving my sport again. So, yeah, so kind of an unconventional, college athletics story, but yeah, it takes me to graduation. I don't know if you want to break there and then kind of where it went after that was really impactful. But yeah, that's what got me there.
Well, guys, I just love to hear the stories, and thanks for sharing. I want to go back to, those formative years, the middle school and the high school. You talk about how the teacher, classic story, sees the tall kid, and it could be a boy or a girl, in the hallway. Hey,
Yeah.
we'd like you to come out for that sport. Um, Back in your day, that I guess going into high school, um, did you think about doing other sports? Was the basketball coach in your ear, track, or were you just totally focused on the volleyball experience?
Yeah, actually my freshman year I ran cross country. So I like played in middle school and I was like, well, I'll just try something else. And running is not as fun. But yeah, and then of course I was always basketball. It was always, I mean, being a tall girl, like people still ask me if I play basketball and you should. And I tried, I didn't like it. And so yeah, but I actually also golfed. I was a varsity golfer. In high school as well. So that was kind of I say I like tried a lot of sports, but I really like found where I fit in volleyball and in golf, and that's kind of where I dedicated my time.
Okay. Now, um, you talked about the anxiety that you were experiencing, either during or towards the end of your high school experience. Um, Trying to look at, and again, from a coaching perspective, now it's much better. But, back in my day, and even beyond, that really wasn't something that we were taught as coaches, the mental aspect of the game. Um, for you, was that, looking back, was that just the way that you were wired? Do you feel, was the coach, and I'm not trying to throw the coach under the bus, was the coach
Mhm.
just creating this high pressure environment that made everybody nervous? Where do you think those feelings of anxiety came from?
Yeah, I think this is a good question because athletes are still experiencing this and at probably a bigger level. And it isn't necessarily anything the coach is doing or not doing. It's the nature of pressure when it comes to athletics and performance. And kids just are not really given the skills. And you say it's better now. It's not really. Like coaches aren't trained in this setting. That's why we do what we do. We can kind of get into how we help coaches with this and why it's so important is that these are all normal experiences. I wouldn't say that I was a highly anxious kid. I wouldn't say that this is actually abnormal. This was literally normal pregame anxiety that I just hadn't experienced before and so didn't know what to do about it. My coach wasn't trained and it's not my coach's fault because when I became a coach when I was 21 years old, I absolutely was not trained. I was barely trained in like how to run a team, let alone like how to coach the mental side of the sport. We're not sports psychologists as
Right.
coaches. And so that's why I'm like, we need to, equip coaches a little bit better. And that's why we do what we do, but we also equip parents. And, there's so much more that we can do, but it's also this like, well, how do you do it? So we can get into
Right.
that. But I will say, just for my experience, no, it was not abnormal. I think that being a talented athlete, there's a couple things that we talk to parents about, and that is when you are a talented athlete, you automatically get noticed for your recognition, for the good things that you're doing for the team, your achievements, and then you start to kind of tie like that praise with your self-worth and with your contribution. Like, in order for me to get this praise and get this, all of these good things that are coming to me, I've got to perform. I remember I had like a game high kill, I had like 20 kills in a game, and it wasn't like a feeling of happiness that I had. It was a feeling of like, well, great, how am I supposed to do that again? And so I think a lot of athletes feel that way unintentionally. Our coaches and parents can like reinforce those things just by how where we're placing our praise and placing our emphasis and our recognition. It's not like we need to ignore all the things that our kids do, but if we can kind of shift that more to like what's the process associated with that, what are things that can be replicated. I can't necessarily replicate 20 kills in a game. There's so many other factors to that, but I can replicate my work ethic, how coachable I am, what type of teammate I am, the goals that I had leading up to that. Like all of that can be replicated. And so if we praise and emphasize those things can lead to confidence. So I think that it's a loaded question because it can come from a lot of different aspects and parenting and coaching and all of that. But no, my coaches were great and my parents were great. They were just doing the best they could and with what they knew. And all that to say, the message I'm hoping that coaches are hearing is that this is normal. Like all athletes are going to experience these things. And so just having a couple of tools to give them makes a huge difference when they're experiencing this.
Right. And again, I'm glad you elaborate on that. And for me, when I say it's better, what I mean is now there's an awareness of kids
Hmm.
are going through this. You know, when I was a student athlete, when I was a young coach growing up, I mean, it was like, hey, suck it up, if it was
Hmm.
even addressed at all. So
Yeah.
that's what I meant. It's better now because there is the awareness. But you're right,
Hmm.
coaches still aren't getting the training that they really need to get. You
Yeah.
mentioned you went from college, your college playing experience, right into coaching. How did that all happen?
Yeah, well, part of my college coaches, I don't know, coaching like framework is that um, in order to know the game, the highest level is to teach it. And so she actually had opportunities for us to coach while we were still playing under her. She had a club that she owned and affiliated. So she gave us opportunities to actually coach while I was still in college. Excuse me. So I coached a couple club teams my junior and senior year. And then when I graduated, so I was in the teaching program, I have a master's in education. So I became a teacher right away and naturally became a coach as well. And, so they kind of were the package deal. And I was like, gung ho right out of college. I was taking over a program. And yeah, so I mean, I was in the high school teaching, I was teaching PE and health, I was coaching the volleyball team. So that's just kind of what it led into. And what I was excited to do was to give back to the game.
Um, as you were, and again, when we have this expression, whether it's a coach or an AD, you don't know what you don't know.
Hmm.
Obviously, you knew skills and instruction and that sort of thing, but what were some things that you found out as a coach that you didn't know?
Yeah, I mean, right away, I noticed that my athletes were struggling with the same thing that I struggled with in high school, and even though I had been taught some of those skills from my coach, I was like, seems like a different ball game. And so early on in my coaching career, I was like, yeah, we can like practice and have really intentionally designed practices and make sure that the girls are getting all of like the training and the skills that they need. And yet still, practice looked really good. And then when we get in the game, it's like a different situation, or we get down and then we like can't recover, or if we lose the first like few points in a game, it's like it's just over from there and they don't believe in themselves. The first program I took over was a smaller program here in Washington and had a history of losing. And so that kind of became their identity and their belief. And I was there for 4 years or 3 years before, and really made some great strides, with the girls and turned the program around. They made their playoff, like they made it to playoffs for the first time in like, decades or something like that. But we ultimately moved back to Vancouver where my family was when we were considering starting our family. And that's where I took over the program where I am now, that I've been at 11 years. And it was here when I was coaching at Columbia River that I was like, I've got to do something about the mental side of the game. Like we lost in like back to back, and I had very talented players that were coming through my program, back to back years in this winner to state loser out situation where we were up 2 sets, up in the third set to go to state, and then we lose. We lose the set, and then we lose the next two games, and we call that a reverse sweep in volleyball. And it's like, how did that happen? Like we were talented enough to do it, but we just couldn't. And so um, about 5 years or 5 to 6 years of my coaching career, I actually went back to become a mental performance coach and like really learn how do I teach these skills to my kids? Like how can we do this? And I used my girls as like the pilot group, the test dummies to like consider and start learning some of these skills. So we taught, how to come back. We taught a snapback routine, how to come back from mistakes. We taught pregame rituals. We did a daily mindset routine, some visualization. Like there's a lot of different skills that I started incorporating into the program with some good results. And, I've been doing it with my team for about 7 years now. So it's kind of just ingrained in our culture. But after we started seeing like this actually is making a difference. I teamed up with my sister-in-law, who also has a background in athletics. We founded our company, The Elite Competitor. But we can go into kind of what that looks like now as well. But that's really where the gaps were and what I started to see. Like these girls need more than just physical skills.
Again, I love hearing the stories of how Genesis stories of how things
Mhm.
develop. It sounds very organic. And talking as a coach, you've had some pretty good success at the state level too. You want to brag a little bit on that?
Yeah, gosh. Well, yeah, we've won four back to back to back to back state championships. So yeah, we're on a little bit of a run here. So that's been really exciting. And obviously, I've got talented kids that come into our program, but also I've had talent, I would say to the coaches listening, so do you. You have talent in your program. It's not a matter of that. It's a matter of can that talent perform when the pressure is on? And I've had talent and we've had great teams, like I said, that have penciled into like we're seated, we're projected to go really far into the postseason, and then we can't get past the like get to state game because we fall apart mentally. And so yeah, there's some great stories, especially this past state championship, and they haven't been easy. So I hope you're not thinking, sometimes you get to this point where it's like, okay, we won our first state championship, and it was like unbelievable, and people were just like so ecstatic, incredible, just cheering us on the whole way. Then we won our second, and people are like, oh, that's so cool. Won our third, and they're like, okay, we're tired of hearing about Columbia River. Can it be somebody else? And oh, she just has talented girls. We won our fourth this past fall, and it was totally unexpected too. It was a complete like wiped out our senior class. We're like, hey, we're just happy to be here. And some of the way in which we won this past season, I like it is just highlights the mental game. We were down championship point to a team that hadn't won state in 36 years. They were physically better than us on paper. Like you look at their front row, 6'1", 6'2", 6'3". She's going to Gonzaga. She's going to Oregon. There's seniors stacked. We have one returning senior. I've got sophomores out there. We're just doing the best we can. And I was like, this is just cool that we're here. But, their fans are on their feet. They're like, we serve this point in, we get this point, we are banners going up, 36 years. And I remember calling back-to-back timeouts because they had match point for two points. And I just tell them like, hey, we're going to go back to our snapback routine, which we had trained the whole season, which is a breath. It's a reset word. It's kind of a way for athletes to stay grounded in the present moment when the moment is big. And the thing is, they didn't just learn this in the state championship game. We literally have been practicing this every single day for 12 weeks. And so, we're like, that's what we're going to do. We're going to receive this ball. We're going to set her outside. We're going to side out right here. We'll take care of it from there. We did just that in that timeout. And so now we have 2 points. We got 2 points to stay alive because you got to win by 2. And my sophomore goes back to serve. And I'm like, I love this for us. She's never been on varsity, never played in a state tournament. We'll see what happens. She looks pretty confident. She goes out, she serves. The other team, they set their best hitter, which I would too. She goes up. We're like, okay, here we go. We're done. She hits the ball out of bounds. We're like, oh, okay. That hasn't happened very much this game, but the pressure is getting to her a little bit. So my sophomore is back to serve. Now we have set point. She serves the ball, serves tough. Their setter kind of botches the play on the other side, which I also was like, what is happening? And then their best player free balls the ball into the net, like an unforced error that's very uncommon at this level, especially in a state championship match. So we win that set to go. Like we thought we had just won state. People were so excited. And then we get into the fifth set, and the other team, they were just crumbling. Mentally, you could see the difference. It was like just, and at that point, like we had already taken it. Momentum had shifted. We stayed calm in that moment. We were able to win. Won 4 state championships. Again, we were the underdogs. We were not seeded the whole year. No one ever put us on the map to be number one. And so it just kind of highlighted like what in those big moments you fall back on your training. The big lights reveal kind of the work that is done in the dark. It's not like, oh, we're just going to rise up to this moment. It's like we have to train for these moments. So anyways, kind of a tangent, but
No,
a
not
cool
at
way that
all.
it got.
And I love how you kind of led with, this was something that we'd been working on the entire season. It wasn't just a magic trick you pulled out of your coach's toolbox. And you reemphasize that with you fall back on your training. Great foundational information for coaches and ADs. You mentioned that you started the elite competitor with your sister-in-law. She has her own, athletic, resume. How did it take shape? How did it get going? How did the elite competitor, what's its origin story? And then
Mhm.
I want you to share some of the resources that our listeners can reach out to you and add to their toolbox.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, And I want to be clear, like mental training is not a replacement for physical training. Sometimes it's like, oh yeah, we just like, we got to have hand in hand. But what was funny about that game, and I'll get it to kind of how Elite Competitor started, was my sophomore was interviewed afterwards. And the interviewer asked her, they were like, so what were you thinking? Like you're serving for game point, coming back to state. And she goes, honestly, I was just doing my breath and I was doing my reset word. I was doing my breath and my reset word. And I'm like, there it is. snapback routine right there. So she was listening. But yeah, the elite competitor, I kind of already talked about how I started implementing some of these things and was seeing some results. I've always been a little, even though I'm a teacher, or I was a teacher, I've always been entrepreneurial. I kind of like, I love new ideas, creating new things. And so I was like, I think we can bring this to more athletes. So we created an online program called the Elite Mental Game. That's what we're most known for. And this was back in 2019. And so we were like, let's serve more athletes with this. So we did, we put it online. We created this program that athletes could go through. We started serving their parents. We really are, our message is for parents and how parents can support the mental game of their athletes. So the program that we have is for athletes, but there's a parent component on what they can do and say to not screw up their kid's sports journey and, instill confidence. So that continued to grow. We've had to date over 7,000 families come through that program. And all the while, we've attracted coaches in our audience because I'm a coach and coaches are interested. They're like, how do I get this for my team? And so we were like, we have a version of our program for coaches, but just this year, actually, we decided to make a full split and created another arm to our company that directly serves coaches. So now we have a side of our company that is fully for how coaches can implement mental training with their teams. The program for that is called Plug and Play Elite Mental Game for Teams. So I just take everything that I do with my team in a plug and play format, really best suited for high school coaches who, like me, I'm in the middle of my season right now. So get their teams together for about 20 minutes a week or less. They play a short video for their team. They have a little discussion question that's very simple. Their team connects, answers the question, and then they have a skill to go out into practice. So they learn the snapback routine, they learn a daily mindset routine, they learn visualization, breath work, all the things. And it's a way that coaches don't have to become a sports psychologist. Like I went the hard way. Like I went back, I became a mental performance coach, I tested all of this. I learned the back end of like, okay, and my background in education also, positions me to be able to create this curriculum so that it leads to results. And so I did all that work for coaches. So all they have to do is show up and press play because, we have got a lot going on. So I actually left teaching in 2021 to run our company full time. So that's what we've been doing, just growing, continuing to grow, continuing to impact thousands and thousands of athletes in programs. So yeah, that's kind of where we started and where we are now in a short version.
We've had a number of mental performance professionals on the podcast in the last
Mhm.
5 years, and I always say that a similar line that I don't think there's a coach in America in any sport that is going to say that mental performance training isn't valuable. It's
Yeah.
they understand it's valuable. The trick is to convince them to give up that 20 minutes, 30 minutes of practice time
Yeah.
to focus on it. And there's so many still that don't do it. So now you're speaking directly to those coaches. Maybe it's a cranky old retired AD in Florida.
Mhm.
You know, how do you convince them to, hey, this is going to help your kids, it's going to help your team, it's going to help you as a coach?
Yeah, I mean, I would say to that, okay, a couple of things. First of all, I am a coach. And
Right.
a lot of times, when I would go to like teacher conferences, coaches conference, and we would have an expert come in and talk. And I'm like, when was the last time you were in the classroom? When was the last time you were actually in front of 48 girls in your gym and having to manage time and manage rosters and all of this? And they're like, oh, yeah, it's been a while, or never. And so I will first say to that coach, I am in coaching with you, literally right alongside you. The other thing is sometimes we don't take action unless there is some pain. And that was for me as a coach. It was painful to watch my team crumble in these situations. And it takes a lot of humility to look at what's the reason for that? Because a lot of coaches will blame their players and they'll just say they couldn't do it, or this person messed up or this and that. And that's what I did the first year. I was like, yeah, it was kind of player, so I did everything I could. And when it happened again, I was like, I have to look at myself as a coach. This is too painful to be that close and not be able to finish because of mental errors. And so, if there's a coach in that boat that's like, yeah, we keep losing because of mental errors, or, I feel like I'm doing everything that I can. Well, what part of the game are you not teaching? Where is the gap? The other part of it is that you already are spending the time. You are already spending the time probably trying to convince your athletes that they are good enough. You're spending time on the sideline trying to get their heads back in the game. You got to pull your best player out and like try and work on the emotional side while you putting your sophomore in who you're like, I am not that deep. I do not want her in right now. I need you in. I need you to be mentally ready. And you're just like trying to pull out all the tricks. So this made coaching easier for me. It made coaching more efficient for me. It made practices more focused. When we spend 3 minutes before practice doing this like silly little visualization to focus them, and now I'm not spending 20 minutes trying to get them to focus in practice, I'm getting practice time back. Now, when I'm on the sideline and I can call a timeout and I say, okay, we're all going to do our snapback routine right now. And they know what I'm talking about. I don't have to figure out like, different things for every person or be like, why is this person crying right now? It's like we have a common language. And so it has saved me time. It's made coaching easier. So that is what I would say. And yeah, you do have to, but like as a high school coach, and that's why I say like a lot of this is best suited for high school coaches. Here's kind of how I just on a very practical level. In the startup of our season, I build in more like we practice on a Saturday. We practice 2 Saturdays within the first 2 weeks. We practice 6 days a week. So I build in time on a Saturday to kind of front load some of this stuff. So as my season is starting, I will take 20 minutes when we do. We just add in a little bit more time. My team has 2 hour early releases on Mondays. Okay. And not every school has that, but I would say, I mean, I've been in education for 15 years and every school that I've taught at or coached at, we have some sort of 1 hour early release, 2 hour early release. And my girls are going off to Dutch Brothers to get coffee. And I'm like, no, let's spend 20 minutes of that 2 hours, like meet with your teachers, get everything under control. But we're going to spend 20 minutes of that 2 hours and we're going to train the mental game. They look forward to it. We call it Mindset Mondays. They like the breakup in the routine. So I think also a lot of times as coaches, it's us that gets in the way. We are like, I don't really know how to do it. And so I don't want to look dumb. I don't know what I'm supposed to teach. I've never done this before. A visualization, how am I supposed to do that? And so that's why we have plug and play. That's why we have resources where you literally don't have to do anything except for press play. And then you lead a little discussion, which doubles as some team bonding for your team because we know when they know each other, they trust each other, like, and it transfers to the court. So those are the angles that I work when it comes to that because, I've been in it and I still am.
No. And again, I want to go back to something that you shared earlier that mental performance training is not a substitute for the physical training that occurs in
Absolutely.
practice, but it can be, as you just articulated, that supplement that takes your program, when I'm talking to you listeners right now, takes your program to that next level. So
Mhm.
very cool stuff. Bre, let's go and cut to the chase. If one of our listeners wanted to reach out and find out more, take advantage of all the resources that you have at the Elite Competitor, how do they do that?
Yeah, the best place to go is to just check out our free training for coaches. That's where we break down like really simple skills that you can teach your athletes. And also you'll learn about plug and play and get a little pricing discount as well if you want to incorporate that into your team. Or if you're an AD and you want to do it department wide, we sell it as seats in your program. So that's at coachfreetraining.com. So that's a really easy way. That'll also get you on our email list and just get you in the loop with everything that we're doing. So Coach Free Training. I'm also on Instagram. I'm on TikTok at Coach Bre. So I'm all over there. If you're a parent listening, I know we do have some parents. Our Instagram Elite Competitor Coach is kind of where we have grown our biggest platform. So if you are a parent that you're like, yeah, I want this for my daughter, then you can find that over there.
Okay. Again, and we'll put all that information in the show notes for the podcast. Bre, thanks again for taking time out of your busy schedule to share with our listeners all the best. Even though you're at Columbia River High School as a battleground graduate, that was our big
I
rival
know.
back in the day.
Oh, it was?
They probably don't even play each other anymore.
No,
But
that Battlegrounds 4A, and yeah, we're not even in the same classification anymore.
right. But anyway, no,
Yeah.
just great story. Love hearing your story as an athlete, as a coach, and now, giving back as you continue to coach at a high level. I'm going to say it again, 4 consecutive state championships. Pretty good resume. Um,
Yeah.
Thanks again for coming on, and we're gonna have to get you back on the podcast maybe this winter after another state championship. No pressure.
Oh yeah, we're not supposed to talk about that, Jake.
Okay.
That is we don't mention those things.
All right.
We'll just see how the season plays out.
Absolutely. That was just some nutty podcaster saying that. That wasn't it.
Yeah, yeah.
For our listeners, we want to say thanks to you and remind you that we upload the Zoom recordings of every interview to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We do Wednesday Wisdom pretty much every week and just about every day. We try to share stories from the world of athletics along with some best practices. So please come back and join us again on the next episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time. Wow, great opportunity there for coaches and ADs. Check out the Elite Competitor. They got some great packages. Speaking of great, we want to thank all of our great sponsors. Want to say thanks to Hometown. Go to hometown.com, Ohio University, and their online masters in athletic administration. Home Campus, uh, become a home campus school. You're going to be amazed at all the things that they can do for you. That's homecampus.com. Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. You'll find them at sidelineinteractive.com. Athletic surveys. If you're not taking a survey of your parents, your student athletes, you're really missing out. Go to athleticsurveys.com. I want to thank Gipper. Go to gipper.com. Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle. As an AD, we were a Huddle school. Go to huddle.com. Snap Raise. If you're looking for a fundraiser, you just found it. Go to snapraise.com. And Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record board for all the teams, for all the sports, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time on the Educational AD Podcast.